Yes. So in our previous sessions, we have started with this array concepts like unpacked arrays, unpacked arrays. We have started our discussion about our unpacked arrays, packed arrays, how your unpacked arrays are going to look like, and how your unpacked arrays are going to look like, right? And we have also seen this unpacked 1D arrays, unpacked 2D arrays, how these are going to look like using indexing and using for loop and for each loop, how we are going to display it and how we are going to insert the elements into the arrays and how your 2D arrays are going to look like, the structure. So these are all things we have seen in the case of our fixed arrays, right? Now, in the case of your fixed arrays, can anyone tell me when can you able to change the size or can you able to allocate more locations in the case of your fixed arrays during the runtime? Is it possible? Yes. So during the compile time, once the memory is allocated, that's it. You cannot change it during the runtime. Am I right? Yes, exactly. Okay. Now, that also we have tried, right? In our previous session, we have tried to allocate some extra memory locations during the runtime, and it was not able to achievable, right? We haven't achieved that particular thing. Okay, so it's not possible, right? Now, in the case, if we have the requirement like to dynamically increase or decrease our memory locations, okay, during our runtime, then what are we going to do is we are going to use this particular dynamic arrays. So using this dynamic arrays, we can able to change the or we can increase or decrease the number of memory locations which we are going to have. Okay, so let's start with this arrays which is known as dynamic arrays. Okay, where you can actually increase or decrease the memory locations during the runtime itself. Okay, so as the name itself suggests, the memory is dynamic in nature. Okay, so during the runtime itself, you can change the size of the memory. So during the runtime, you can increase or delete memory locations. Okay, now, so coming to our dynamic arrays, we are the syntax is data type, and this dynamic array is also an unpacked array. Okay, so we are going to have a data type followed by the variable name or the array name and simply empty brackets. Okay, so simply empty brackets indicates that it's a dynamic array. Okay, now for example, if I'm going to take bit arr and simply an empty dynamic array. Okay, so this is a simple dynamic array. Now, here, if you have declared any dynamic array, you need to allocate memory for this particular dynamic array. Now, memory allocation is going to happen during the runtime. Okay, so memory allocation basically happens in the runtime. So in the compile time, you're not going to provide any memory. You are in your runtime only. You're going to provide the memory. Okay. For example, let us see one example for this. So what are we going to do? Unpacked array whose size can be modified during the runtime. No, 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 no. That is fixed size arrays. So in unpacked arrays, this dynamic arrays are also said to be an unpacked array. Okay. Yeah. So let me create a simple array module example, and here I'm going to declare a simple dynamic array. So if you are going to declare a dynamic array, just keep simple square brackets. That's it. Okay. And what are we going to do over here is within an initial beginning block, which is a runtime. During this, we are going to allocate the memory. How we are going to allocate the memory? Using the keyword new. Okay. And I should use square brackets, not normal brackets. So we are going to use square brackets for creation of your dynamic array memory locations and for normal brackets for object creation that we are going to learn further. Okay. Now, so you are going to, let's say we are going to give 5. So total 5 locations will be created. So a array with 5 number of locations will be created like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So this is a dynamic array bit dyn with 5 number of locations we have created. What we have simply written dyn is equal to new of 5. Now can anyone tell me how many bits can I store in this particular dynamic array? Can anyone tell me how many bits, what is the storage capacity of this dynamic array? How many bits it can store? Waiting for other responses also. How many bits it can store? What is the capacity? Exactly. So why it is 5? Because we have declared it with bit. Okay. So each location can have only one bit of data. So total 5 locations. So 5 bits of data. Is it clear? Yes. So what are we going to do here is we have just simply declared a dynamic array, and if I want to store the elements into my dynamic array, again I have three methods. First is array aggregate method, which I can use for storing the elements into my dynamic array. And second is for each loop I can use, and I can also use for loop. And the last method is indexing method. So anything is possible. So I can use aggregate method for each loop, for loop, and index method for storing the elements into my dynamic array. So I'm going to use array aggregate method. So I'm simply going to write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. 5 elements I have entered into my dynamic array. And let me display it simply. $display. The value of dyn is, I'm going to print it in packed format, dyn. Let me run it. Let us see what are we going to get over here. So we are going to get 10101, but I'm storing here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But why I'm getting 10101? Can anyone tell me? I'm storing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but I'm getting 10101. Is there any reason for that, or is it any compiler mistake? Exactly. Only last bit is storing. Exactly. So here I'm simply entering the integers, but each location can only store a bit data. Okay. So one is nothing but 32 bits 0 0, 31 bits 0 followed by 1. Okay. And 2 is nothing but 31 bits, sorry, 30 bits 0 and 1 0. Okay. So only the LSB is getting stored. Okay. If you want, you need to mention it carefully. Wanting binary 1, or else let us declare it as int. Exactly. Because it is only storing one bit. Exactly. So it's this is how we are going to store the elements into my dynamic array. Is it clear for everyone? The syntax and the memory allocation and the storing the elements into my dynamic array. Are there clear? Any doubts in this? Okay. Shall we move forward? Okay, that's great. Yeah. So let's say if I'm going to let's say if my requirement is I have a dynamic array. So let's say if I have a dynamic array like this with three number of locations, one, two, three. Okay. So if I have a dynamic array with three number of locations, and let's say this is dyn1. Okay. And if I want to change it to five number of locations, one, two, three, four, five. The same dynamic array, I want to change it to five number of locations. Can anyone tell me? So here I have, let's say 5. I need to change it to 8. So I need to, in this particular example, I have 5, right? I want to change it to 8 number of locations. Can anyone tell me what can we do? Can anyone write down the syntax? Meanwhile, I will add some more slides. Using by neo3. Okay, let us check it out. What are we going to get? So let's say if I'm going to write down dyn is equal to new of 8. That means I'm changing the number of locations from 5 to 8. Now let me display this array. Can anyone tell me what will be the contents of this dynamic array if I'm displaying it? Whether it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 0, or what it will be. If I'm trying to increase the size of this array, what will be the contents? I've simply changed the size from 5 to 8. Now tell me, any guess, any guess? What will be the value of this dynamic array if I'm going to print it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, XX, all zeros. Okay, why I'm going to get X over here? Can you please let me know? You should not get X because the default value of your int is 0, right? So you need to get int default value is 0. Yeah. And your answer is incorrect only. Let me show you what we are going to get. We are going to get completely zeros. Can you able to see this? So if we are trying to increase this array size from 5 to 8, so what is happening? Entire previous elements got deleted and 8 new locations has been created. Can you able to observe this? Exactly, all zeros we are going to get. So here my requirement, let me write it down my requirement one more time. So here my requirement was very simple. I want to increase the size of the array from 5 number of locations to 8 number of locations. So initially what I have written divine is equal to new of 5, and stored some elements into my dynamic array, and what I've done is simply divine is equal to new of 8. So what compiler is going to do is it is going to delete all the elements which are present previously, and what it is going to do, it is going to create new 8 number of locations. And since the data type of this dynamic array which we have declared previously was int, so all zeros will be written in all the locations. Okay. So if you want to increase the size, this method is not at all recommended. You are not supposed to write down simply divine is equal to 8. Now what should I do? Someone has answered previously. Let us check. This method is not possible. So someone has answered. Where is it? Can you answer it one more time? Yeah, exactly. Divine is equal to new of 8 divine. Exactly, correct. So what I'm going to do? So here I'm going to write down again divine. So I need to have 8 locations, and I also need to store I also need to retrieve the previous array elements. So I need to use the syntax. Okay. So that my previous values will not be erased. Now, before that, can anyone tell me how many locations are created in this new dynamic array? How many locations are created in this new dynamic array? 8, exactly. And so all the previous 5 elements are stored. You can see over here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are stored, and 3 extra locations are created. And I've also increased my size. Is it clear? So you need to be careful whenever you wanted to increase your dynamic array size. You need to carefully use this particular syntax, or else all the previous elements will be erased, and of course your number of locations will be increased, but you are going to have a new fresh array. Is it clear? Yes. Okay. Now we have some of the built-in functions in our dynamic arrays. So one of the built-in function is size. Okay. So this size is basically used to get the size of your dynamic array. Okay. And we have something known as delete. So this delete function basically deallocates the memory for your dynamic array. It will delete entire dynamic array. Okay. Let us see these two functions. Let's say if I want to get the size of my dynamic array, I'm going to use $display. This size of dynamic array is percentage %d comma dyn dot size. Let me display it. So I should use array name dot size so that I can get the size of the array. Okay. So it is nothing but 8. Okay. Let's say if I'm going to delete the array, dyn dot delete. Let's see what I'm going to get. So the size of the array is 0. And let me print the array also. Let me copy this and have it over below before the printing statement. Let us see what it is getting printed. See, so no element is getting printed, and even the memory which was allocated, that everything was deleted, and it is returning a empty array. Okay, no memory allocated. Every memory which was allocated was deleted. Is it clear? So that was about your built-in functions, size and delete. Any queries in this? Yes. Shall we move forward? Okay, great. Now, so let's say, yes, Raj. Okay. Okay. So let's say this was your introduction to arrays, built-in functions and everything. Let's say if we have a simple module, and in this I've declared two dynamic arrays, dy1 and int dy2. Now, within an initial beginning block, what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply write down dy1 is equal to new of 3 and dy2 is equal to dy1. I'm copying it. So for copying from one array to another array, I'm just going to equate them. dy2 is equal to dy1. Before that, I'm going to write down simply dy1 is equal to simply I'm going to write down 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm going to write like this. Now, let's say if I'm going to change the array values of dy into 2, 3, 4, and if I display 2, 3, and 4. Okay. And let's say if I'm going to display both the arrays, let me copy this statement, dollar display statement. dy into, okay. dy1 is percentage p dy2. Now, can anyone tell me whether what will be the dy1 value that will be printed and what will be the dy2 value that is going to be printed? What is the dy1 array value that is going to be printed and dy2 value that is going to be printed? I've copied, and after copying, I've changed the contents in my second dynamic array. Both will be the same. Both will be the same. dy1 is 1, 2, 3. dy2 is 3, 4, 5. Okay. Both will be 1, 2, 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4 responses I've got. What about remaining people? 1, 2, 3 and 2, 3, 4. Okay. So my question is simple. I've created one dynamic array. So I've created one dynamic array like this. What happened to this? One. So dy1 is what happened knowing. So dy1 was basically a simple dynamic array with three number of locations, and I've copied it to my dy2, which is also three number of locations. And after that, I made changes into this, and I'm displaying both the contents. Let's see what I'm going to get. Okay. Okay. Initial beginning block I haven't written in module. See, so the value of dy1 is 1, 2, 3 and dy2 is 2, 3, 4. Okay. So if you are going to copy one dynamic array to another dynamic array, so for this one memory location will be created and for this separate memory location is going to create. So if you are going to make any changes in this array that are not reflected in this particular array, so please be careful in this particular thing. So if you make any changes into this that are not going to be reflected into this particular array. Okay. Is it clear for everyone? Any queries in this? Yes, yes. Okay. So this was about your dynamic arrays. It's simple. Just we have started. Then values also get copied. Exactly. let me come into the second this statement, line number 41 statement, and let me display it. After copying, I have changed the values. That's it. See, 1 2 3 1 2 3. Okay, copying will be happen. There is no doubt in that. Okay, yes. So that was about your dynamic arrays. Okay. So in our so how do when we change div into and div, you cannot have that particular change to be reflected because for both the arrays you will have a different thing, right? So it is not possible. Okay. Yes. So generally, why I've taken this particular example because people will study object-oriented programming and they get confused between object this objects-oriented programming stuff and this dynamic array stuff. So that's why I've taken this example. If we change in dy1, it will be reflected in divide into. No, that is what I am saying, right? So generally, people will study object-oriented programming and they will mix this particular concepts with it. So that's why I've taken this. So in object-oriented programming, I will show you. If we take two objects and if we copy them, so are the changes reflected or not? We will discuss that. Okay. Yes. So this was about my dynamic arrays, the syntax and copying and creating and all. So tomorrow we will start with another concepts like 2D dynamic arrays and 3D dynamic arrays. Let us see with, and we will start with queues and associative arrays. Right? Yes. So that's about this particular session. If you have any doubts or any other queries you wanted to discuss, you can stay and discuss with me, or else you can leave.